to our public that is watching via our live stream. By accident, the live stream was on March's meeting instead of the February meeting, but we are back and I believe on the right meeting now for making sure that this is on. So Andy, my apologies for interrupting you. If you could start from the beginning of your question again.
Yes. So regarding 6625, my question was, I know we have legal references, but do we think it would also be helpful to have a policy reference? Because if we're providing reimbursement and costs to families, for me, it'd be helpful to have a quick reference on what the additional policy looks like further than that reimbursement process as well.
We can sure cross-reference that.
Yeah, I think that's a good reference to reference that policy, no problem.
I have one other thing on this. It says the transportation department determines when in lieu transportation would be advantageous. Is there a way we could give an example of what that would look like? Like what is in lieu transportation? So there's no.
Yes, I can answer that question. So the two most common situations where we have in lieu transportation is either with inclusive education, where we're obligated to provide transportation to the student, but the parent might decide and work with inclusive education and transportation. It's in their best interest if they transport their own student.
Right.
And in that case, we have a process for capturing the mileage and reimbursing it at the IRS rate. The other situation is typically McKinney-Vento, homeless students. There could be a situation with the parent where we work out that that's the best course of action instead of some alternative form of transportation.
So it's really, when we think of in lieu transportation, it's really on a case-by-case basis. We're not just, it's not carte blanche that, my kid's gonna go in a Uber with, I want a luxury Uber every morning.
Correct. The transportation eligibility requirements apply.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so what you just said, I think may need to be in this policy.
So you're talking about adding language about the transportation requirements or?
That the transportation requirements, like this
Wouldn't that be in
applies.
the procedure though?
Oh, I don't know. Is it in the procedure?
To me, that seems a little bit more procedural because this is kind of the floor, right? Like the transportation department determines when in lieu transportation would be advantageous to the
Right.
district, which is true. That's the policy.
That is correct.
And then the procedure would explain what that looks like, when that happens, what would happen. To me, does that feel?
That's fine. I
Are you
just
good with
didn't know
that?
if it was in the procedure. I just want to make sure that we're capturing it somewhere. So parents, I think about special needs students or students that may be experiencing whatever it is, right? Displacement of some sort. And we're getting this so they get to the school of their choice and they're there at the school that they need to be at to be the most, advantageous to them. But I don't want it to be a barrier, right? I want it to be a simplified kind of, but if there's a policy that says, here's the process, and we can make that clear to people, I'm good.
I'll
Just to
check the
clarify, a
procedure.
procedure.
A procedure, yes,
Okay,
sorry,
thank
a
you.
procedure, not a policy. Procedure that makes it clear.
We can do that. Thank you.
Make sure it's in there.
Okay.
Oh, just curiosity. Does this come out of, for this policy, for students who are on an IEP, does the budget come out of transportation or special ed?
Mr. Dennison?
It comes out of transportation because it's to from school. And
Okay.
that's program 99.
Thank you.
The part that I was a little concerned about is the sentence here where it says, the staff member will acknowledge that they agree to assume full responsibility for any liability or property damage, comprehensive or collision, made by or against the driver or owner of the vehicle. The district's liability insurance will cover the risk assumed by the district. The mileage of the staff member will be reimbursed by the district. The part that I'm concerned about is it doesn't spell out what component is the district's liability in this. It also seems like if we write it this way, they're agreeing to take on full responsibility for damage to their vehicle from someone else.
Well, I think just in the same way that anyway in Washington State, However, that would be handled through insurance.
But it doesn't say that. It says made by or against the driver or owner of the vehicle. So if it's made against the driver/owner of the vehicle, it's their full responsibility for any liability regarding that, because it wouldn't be. It would be the person who hit them, I would assume. So I don't understand why we're doing that, but I also am a little concerned that we would have a staff member that we aren't supporting through that, as far as insurance goes, if they're willing to do this work. And maybe this will drive people to not want to do it, because I certainly wouldn't be super comfortable saying I'm going to waive all of my rights and, I'm doing something for the district for our students, but I'm not covered under the district's policy. I'm covered under my own. Like, I don't know, it seems like a big ask for employees to take that risk when they're essentially, that works out to be a commercial use of a vehicle, because the insurance company is going to look at it that way, and they may drop them entirely from their insurance for not following their rules and whatnot. So I just don't know. Obviously, if it's your own kid, that's a different situation. But when we have a staff member that's driving a student around, that seems like part of the job here, if we're asking them to do so.
Yeah, so I think I'll have Mr. Dennison just talk about instances where that we've had that happen. And also, I noted that at the end of that, the district's liability insurance would well cover the risk assumed, right, by the district. But if you want to share some
Yeah,
situations.
so this, from my understanding, this would be a school level situation in most cases, and transportation wouldn't necessarily be involved. But a couple of the things that stand out to me is that there's no mandate here. It says that staff may transport. And when I think of liability, it says they agree to assume full responsibility for any liability if there is liability for that situation. So I don't think it corners the staff member into forcing them to drive a student, and I don't think it forces them to accept undue liability.
Okay, because you added words in there. So like, it doesn't say if there's any liability. It just says responsible for any liability. So, that is very broad language. It doesn't specify that it's not if they aren't liable, or it doesn't give them an out in any way, as far as I can tell from the wording. And maybe our legal counsel can give us some advice on that. I'm not sure, but to me, that seems a little bit far reaching on it. I also took a look at the RCW that's written here, and it mentions that anytime that there's individual transportation, that it needs to be approved by the Educational Service District Superintendent. Do we just have like a blank, note saying that they approve anything we decide to do? Like, how does that work? Because it's pretty explicit in RCW 28A 160030.
Or their designee.
But I think, just to piggyback on this, I think this says when engaged in an occasional field trip activity or when engaged in occasional extracurricular activity. This would be like driving the swim team to a meet, because there's only 2 of them that are going. So I'm going to go, I'm the coach, and I'm going to take the 2 kids and I'm going to drive them to the meet.
By your choice.
By my choice. I've decided it would just be more convenient, and I fill out the form that says, hey, Justin, I'm taking Andy and Laura to this meet, and it's for this extracurricular activity, right? And me and the co-captain are going, because you can't have one individual parent with one guy.
I think it goes through the principal of the building, though. Is that right, Justin?
Yeah, it goes to the principal or something
Yeah.
for,
Because
So-
that would be the designee of the superintendent.
right.
Yes.
Okay.
So a couple things. I want to make sure we kind of stay with, we can have our legal counsel take a look at that WAC
Right.
to give guidance. But I want to go back to the original Director Cook's point there, that other situations that might warrant that as a field trip where a student may need to go home for whatever
they're
reason.
sick or
we can
something
decide,
happens.
which occurs. We have that happen often. And I'll point to the language, when a student's welfare is involved. And then it goes on to say when due care dictates prompt. having been involved in several of these, there are all kinds of situations where that comes up, where a child needs to go home from a field trip that just started. There may be medication, there are a number of things without getting into it, but that's really what this, I believe this paragraph is addressing in those circumstances that might come up. So I want to point that out. So we'll have legal look at WAC for language that we could include to make it clear. And Director Cook, you mentioned that you weren't sure if there was enough leeway in there for staff to opt out. I think that's why I took your statement. So if we
Well,
had
that-
language in there that,
That as well as just the part where it's talking about full responsibility for any liability or property damage.
Yeah.
Assuming that they hold any liability. That's
I
what
was
think
wondering
that
if we
would-
could add language. I heard you on that one. The staff member will acknowledge that they agree to assume full responsibility for any liability or property damage, comprehensive or collision, made by or against the driver, owner of the vehicle, if liability is assigned through normal course of business, or
Legal
however
action,
that's done, either by a
Whatever the
police
normal-
officer or the insurance company or whomever assigns liability.
I want to think that last year we had a transportation where it was our insurance company was requiring this because it stacks or something, and it's a violation of our insurance policy. I would wonder, maybe we have us look at that as well when legal reviews that, to see what our insurance policy says on this, to make
Yes.
sure it's clear.
yes, and I wanted to go back to that language because I agree with Director Cook and President Margell in that, let's make clear in there as a board that what that liability is. As part of that liability, we would always check with our carrier on
Right.
anything that would have liability, so.
But with some type of language like that, I see your point. Like, if I was the person who hit our staff member, it says you will assume responsibility. And so just making sure that the caveat in there is if you do have responsibility,
Yeah.
if it's assigned by whomever.
Yeah.
But does that get where you're
That
going?
definitely, yeah, that definitely would take care of that part. I definitely think that would resolve the issue of them being because it puts them in a weird position if they end up going and they end up in court for some reason and they're the other person's, saying, oh, well, you are responsible because it says right here you already signed and agreed to it, that sort of thing.
Can we
And so
give it
that's-
back to just add
I
some
don't-
type of caveat to make sure if they actually have responsibility?
But if they're driving a kid, isn't that automatically assumed that they're taking responsibility?
So you're driving a kid.
Yeah,
I'm just driving on the street.
yeah.
I hit you. So I should be responsible, right? But it says right here, you're assuming responsibility. And so what we're saying is, if you have responsibility and are at fault for whatever happens, then you would take
I
responsibility.
see.
Between the two of us, it's kind of outside of the district.
Does our coverage have that option to cover that?
That's what we'll
Okay.
make
Yeah,
sure we'll
that's
check.
what I want them to check.
Okay.
Yeah, typically, so the board knows, and I have, Director Cook had situations where staff don't want that. Typically, a principal, moi, will drive out and bring the child back. Or, I know I've done that myself. So but we'll get the language clarified, check with our legal liability, with our coverage, and then also take a look at that WAC to make sure the language in the next reading reads more to what the board wants
Right.
Sounds good.
and needs.
I also have a question on the portion where it says staff may transport students when a student's welfare is involved. How broad is that? Are we talking about like the example that Vice President Gregory was talking about, where we would be driving them to a sporting event of some sort? Is that welfare, or are we talking like they're at the sporting event, they get hurt, and we need to take them to a doctor? Because those
That's the
are a
way I
bit
think it
different,
reads.
and the fact that it states when due care dictates prompt action, like that it has those different categories underneath it, where that, and then also when engaged in occasional field trip activity, or when engaged in an occasional extracurricular activity, that indicates to me that it's not just when there's an emergent situation, but that there could be other times. Is that, am I reading that accurately?
To me, it looks like if something happened during that field trip or extracurricular activity, and for their welfare, they're being transported, say they sprained their ankle.
Isn't there a state definition for welfare that DCYF uses? And could we just reference that policy?
I also think about I don't know, something happened to me, and for some reason my kid was on, and we decided, whomever was there, like, yes, we need that kid back there. You know, as I'm saying me as a parent, sorry, I shouldn't have, you know, like, I think that sometimes, I don't know, I'm okay with the broadness of it, because welfare could be a lot of different things depending on the family situation. And so I think discretion, and that it has written approval of a designee of the superintendent, I feel like that there's a good guardrail there. That's
Yeah,
my opinion.
And also, I'm just, at the end, you see, we noted superintendent will establish procedures for the use of private auto transportation, which there's a whole host of things that could occur when a child's welfare is in danger or whatever that might be. So, but referencing that may be something that we do, once we look at that, what that definition is.
Okay, yeah, I guess I was
Good
just thinking for
suggestion.
more consistency, since
Yeah.
welfare is a defined
Yeah.
term in our RCWs.
Definitely took a look.
Well, and if we're going to go off of the idea that it does require some sort of emergent situation where the student is either hurt or, you know, something else is going on that requires them to leave for whatever reason, that to me seems like we would leave out the other two sections, the field trip activity and occasional extracurricular activity. Now, if we are allowing them to drive them for the purpose of getting them to an event of some sort, that doesn't feel emergent to me and doesn't necessarily mean their welfare. But if it does, I'd like to know that so that we're talking about the right thing. Whether or not we're talking about any driving of a student for purposes of going to an event of some sort or something else along those lines, or if it's just when there's a problem that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I think that can be in the procedure piece as well.
Yeah, I would prefer that we write it appropriately so that the board is making policy that stands up to legal scrutiny if it ever needs to. You know, as far as that goes, the policy that we write is what is meant to be held to account. And so I don't know that just putting it into procedure is going to be enough.
Be up to the board.
Yeah, I guess what comes to mind with that, and this is just a simple syntax diction edit. And so maybe once we get those additional pieces, we can look at what the verbiage looks like.
Sure.
Yeah.
Bring it back for the board's perusal. To me, the way that reads, it's all to do with welfare, not just I'm taking him to a field trip, but we'll make sure to get that clarified and look at the procedure too.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll bring that one back. We're going to move on to 6630, driver training and responsibility. This policy is new to KSD, and believe it or not, this is a discretionary policy. It provides alignment with governing regulations, WAC 392-145-031, general school bus driver requirements. So let me pull that up. Again, this is new to us. We didn't change anything in there that WASDA didn't have. Everybody good with it?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
All good.
Next is 6640. This is the one we talked about being split off, school-owned vehicles. Let's pull that up. This is where we moved the language out of the other one that we had together and split it off. So it is just in school-owned vehicles.
So I'm curious, how many staff do we have that currently have 24-hour vehicle assignments?
One.
Is that just one?
One.
Okay, so it's not a common thing, okay.
I'm good.
Fantastic.
I only want to make one change.
What's that?
I would like to make a return on the second paragraph where it says a valid first aid card. I'd like to pull that and just make it its statement on its own.
Okay, that's
That's
easy
my
enough.
only adjustment. Because it's buried with all of the other things, and I think it's important to note that they have to have that first aid safety and other qualifications.
Okay.
Is that okay if we did make a return there?
I moved it down.
I'm indifferent.
More,
I'm indifferent. I mean, there's a list of other things. It's important that they have a current driver's license, a copy of, driving record, doesn't really say, just the license and the first aid maybe,
Yeah,
as
just wanna-
bullets.
Yeah, or something, because it's just like a laundry list of things, and it like buries the first aid of like, hey, that, they have to comply with that. I get the whole driving license and the record, I mean, makes sense to me, and it's part of the WAC, but I don't know.
This is how it would read with all the red line gone, just separate on its own.
Yeah,
Yep.
yes.
Sure.
Okay,
Okay?
otherwise I'm good.
That's the end of our transportation policies. Thank you, Mr. Dennis.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back to a third reading for board officers and duties of board members. There was a concern about the word will that's been mentioned multiple times. There are two places in here where I changed will to is expected to see if this change will help the board move this policy on for approval. So all these other changes we've talked about already as far as vacancy occurring in the legislative rep position and the legislative representative being the voting delegate at the assembly. But here are the changes where will was in and is now reading is expected to. Instead of each board member will review the agenda, it's each board member is expected to. Hoping that that helps move this one forward.
So I had a question. This isn't about the changes that we already have in place here, but more about some stuff going on with the policy in general. When it states that board members cannot assume administrative roles, which I agree with, but does that include review of, say, like financial documents, review of other documents and materials within the district for our oversight role? Or are we saying that it's just in the fact that like we can't go and make direction towards staff and whatnot, which is fully acceptable, obviously. But my concern is how do we ensure that we are being able to provide the oversight that our role requires in here when it does state that. I just am a little confused on. I want to make sure that we're able to do our jobs appropriately.
I'm sorry, which section were you talking about so I can read it?
It's right
Duties
there,
of
under duties
individual
of
board
individual
members.
board members.
And it's the second line in the first sentence.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
I don't think it has anything to do with board oversight. It just specifically is talking about not assuming the responsibilities of administrators.
Yes, but the problem is that when it says that, let's see, board or staff will not be bound in any way by any action taken or statement made by any individual board member except when such statement is or action is pursuant to specific instructions and official action taken by the board. That to me sounds like a way to stop people from providing oversight, because you have to wait for a majority of the board to authorize you to provide, to go in and look at that information. And that's, to me, that seems like it's a bit of a stretch in that it could lead to the ability of a board to stop a board director from finding information out that maybe they don't want them to find out, that sort of thing. Are we saying that we would require each board director to get approval to find that information? Because right now what it says is they are not bound in any way to take any action. So if I go in and ask someone in IT and say, hey, I want the data on X, whatever it might be, how many times have we fixed this building or whatever, that they could refuse it because it's not directed by the board. It's just a single board director asking a question. So there's no responsive anything if we don't take action as board.
The board protocol addresses that actually as far as sending things through the superintendent for that type of information. So it wouldn't be that the person would refuse. It normally would come from the superintendent's direction.
And I
Per the
understand
protocol.
that, but the problem that I've had is that I have asked for documentation of things and have not received it in the past. And so I'm a little concerned on that front just because it does create a barrier to information being provided. And that's, if the board as a whole here is okay with that, obviously I'm a single member here, so I don't have any control over that, but that is something that worries me a little bit, especially seeing as many districts as we are surrounding us that are heading into, constraints and stuff through the state. It's very concerning that we aren't able to go in and find things out on our own, that we need to go through anyone else, would indicate that there's a point of filtration possibly, right? And I'm not suggesting that that's happening, but it could be. If you're asking a single person what the information is on this particular thing, and it has to go through the superintendent, it has to go through the board, that puts a barrier between there. And I would prefer that we break that kind of barrier because it does hinder our ability to make sure that we are appropriately providing oversight for the district, each and every one of us, which is a requirement of our oath of office.
Yeah, I would just say for the board, duties of individual board members, I'll highlight individual, okay? And a statement there, board members will not assume responsibilities of administrators or other staff members. That is directing their work. So it's really not for oversight. You have the board as oversight as a whole is one. It's talking about an individual, it's not direct the work of an individual employee or staff.
So I just want to provide context, just so I want to ask a clarifying question. So this, if I'm hearing you correctly, Superintendent Vela, the statement that says board members will not assume responsibilities of administrators or other staff members. You're saying if I go to a school and I go to the principal and say, I want you to initiate a lockdown, that I'm telling them to do it.
That's right.
And that's what you're saying. That should not be done. We should
Correct.
not be doing that, and we do not have the power to do that.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And I agree with that. We should not be going to a random school and saying, hey, you should do X. The statement that Director Cook is looking at, the board or staff will not be bound in any way or by any action taken or statement made by an individual board member except when such statement. I took that statement differently. I took that statement as I'm at a school and I'm visiting and I say, I think you should change the way that we are parking. And I'm making a statement as an observation, but they then take it and make that change. Do you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, like they're not bound by your statement.
They're not bound by my statement to say, hey, I want to change, the parking should change here. And they're not bound to then go back and work with transportation to change the parking,
I think that's the way the statement exactly reads.
right?
Correct.
That's how I interpreted it, so I just wanted to clarify. So They're not bound by if I go onto a campus, make an observation, and say, hey, I think it would be better this way. And then they, yeah.
Yes.
Or
But
even not observation,
But that's
directly
an
telling
individual
them.
board member. If the
Right.
board says to do something, the board of 5,
Yes, if we were to come together and then say, hey, we visited this class and we think we should move this, the parking should change at this building. Now we've made an action, now we're instructing them to make that change as the whole board, right? Okay.
Well,
And
it's,
then
Does
we
this,
come back
does
and
this
say
also
that's-
apply to, sorry for cutting you off, did
No,
you have
no.
something?
if I just.
But as far as that goes, my concern with that is, again, so that's one situation, right? Obviously, well, not obviously, I do not expect that. I would never expect that. But for me, the question more becomes, so one of the things that we ask of our superintendent is that they visit schools unannounced a certain number of times every
Yes.
year.
Yep.
And if I want to go and see if our direction is being followed, do I need to come back and say, hey, board, I want to go and check on this? Or can I just go to the school and be like, hey, how many times, while I'm there, not because I'm actively seeking this out, or even if I do actively want to seek that out, can I go in there and say, hey, how many times has the superintendent been here to provide an unannounced visit? And that information is part of the, part of our review process. It's in the review of the superintendent. It's a line item of things that the superintendent is expected to do. And that seems like a reasonable oversight role in that. Now, I understand we wouldn't want to be, hey, I want every data point on something that's going to take them 3 hours to figure out. That's a little much. But if it's data points where we're trying to get information because we're trying to provide oversight, I think even if we can point back to something that says, here's what I'm looking for, and here's how it relates to my work on the board. And maybe we state it in such a way that requires the board director in question to be able to answer to that, and saying that in asking for this, I am doing my providing oversight in this way for this purpose. And then the board, if they disagree, can go in and handle that situation after the fact. But in my opinion, I think it would be better for us each of our board directors to have the authority to go in and ask questions like that, so that we can ensure that we don't end up in a situation like the districts surrounding us.
How would you draw the line, though? 2 data points or 10? I mean, I'm not sure how you could
I mean,
do that.
in my opinion, you answer to them as it is, and then if we come to a point where it's a problem, then we address that problem. If it's for me a harder thing when we say you can't do that, and we're not giving you the option to do that.
you can, you just can't do it on your own. It just requires an action of the board.
Yes, and that's problematic, because then if you're shrinking down the amount of people that are able to provide oversight, because you're saying that only a majority of the board can provide oversight. There are 2 other board directors theoretically in a hypothetical situation where those 2 board directors, if they never get authority to do it through the board never authorizes them to do so. Now we are relying on 3 people instead of 5 to do the oversight. So that's where my concern is because it should be every board member's prerogative to find information as they need. Now, we can leave the language in here that they're not bound to do it, so the staff member doesn't have to. But if they don't, then the board director can go and say, here's my reason, I would like to get this, and then go back to the board. But the assumption should be that the board director has the authority to go in and ask for information. If they choose not to, then the board director has to go back. Does that seem reasonable?
So I'll share with
that's-
the board before you get discussion here, that if you look at the statement here, it's not just a staff member, it's the board. So the board or a staff member. So it doesn't just relate to a staff member. So when an individual board member makes a statement, they're not, the board as a whole or the individual is not bound by that statement. That's what it's saying. That's a distinction, I think, that's important to note here. So, sorry, I think it was.
The board would
Dr.
never
Solomon.
be required to do anything as far as I mean.
Yeah, I guess just using your example, I feel like this language does permit that because you could go in, you could ask that question. And I view that as different from a statement or a directive of you have to give me this data point in a specific manner versus, hey, I'm here, by the way, here's a question. And then that staff member isn't bound, like they have to tell you this information, but they could choose to tell you. And so, but then also following your other point, if they choose not to, that might be the process of them bringing it to the board to get it in a more formal way.
So again, the problem that I have with that is with the idea that that could create a filter of those 3 board members that just like if you can get 3 board members to go along with everything you want, then or the board themselves has 3 more board members that all agree on something all the time, then they will have complete control over the results of oversight in the district, because you'll never be able to get that information if every time they come back and the board's like, no, they can still ignore you. That to me seems problematic, because there's never a point, as far as I understand, anywhere else in any of our policies that would indicate that board directors are duty bound to find information, and also they are duty bound to allow board directors to get that information. And so, there's a fiduciary responsibility and whatnot for us to be making sure that our district is run appropriately. But how do you do that if you can be blocked from doing so just by a simple majority vote?
Yeah, I guess I would be interested in hearing what language we can replace this with that allows that flexibility, because I guess I'm also thinking of scenarios where a board member might ask a staff member for something, and so how do we write it in a way where all staff, because what I'm hearing you say is they have to give us the information that we are asking them at that time.
But they do, as far as the board as a whole. If the board as a whole decides to say you will do this, there's no question that the board has the authority to do so.
Which that
Right.
would be in that second process of where we bring it to the board.
Right.
But as an individual.
No, I'm not saying that that each individual board director should have that sort of thing. What I'm saying is that we should lead with an assumption that they will have the information provided to them, and if not, that there's an explanation why. And then at that point, you can go back. Now, that it just seems off to me, because it's something that's bothered me about school boards in general and the guidance from WASDA overall from our state, is that there's this, it seems to be this idea that our board is only one as a whole, but when we swear our oath, it isn't to the board. It's not that we only act as a board. We can be held individually legally responsible for the choices that we make. And given that, if we're saying that our individual board directors have no authority, then why do individual board directors have responsibility if they do not have authority? Because how do those two not work together? Because they should be both, right? You should be both responsible to make sure that the district is doing what is expected and that they're following what is expected for the policies set by the board. But it's also that we should have the authority to ensure that those policies are being followed. And that's where I guess it becomes difficult, and it to me is a little off that we have to go back.
I don't disagree. Like, I think ideally we want to work within this system of trust where we can get the information that we need that's necessary for the work that we do. But also to counter that, I'm also seeing it from the perspective of what if we do have a corrupted board member who tries to acquire information for their own self-gain? That would be the same equivalence to being blocked by
But
a
that's
majority of the
actually
board.
illegal. So you could
It
be
is.
charged with crimes for doing that. And, just because we have the ability to come in here and hurt someone doesn't mean that we protect against them hurting them by saying you can't come in here, right? Like those are two different things. Like just because I can come in and commit assault doesn't mean I'm going to, for one. But if I do, there are consequences for that, and there are consequences for a board director asking
Yes.
for, especially if it's related to FERPA or HIPAA or something along those lines.
Yeah.
There are rules in place and laws in place that are going to hold them accountable, and they should know that they are going to have some issues if they do choose to do so. And we shouldn't be trying to litigate that from our policies because we already have the mechanisms in place to protect against it.
Yeah, again, I don't disagree. It's just when we look at the objective nature of writing a policy, we also have to view it from the other perspectives as well. Because what we're running into is this conflict of assumption on one side but not the other. And so how do we objectively outline that in a policy where one side is not, I guess, has more leverage over another? Because we could also make the assumption that you're running on the assumption that a majority would act in a way that would hinder the ability or the honest inquiry of an individual board member for the sake of stopping them. And so I don't disagree that all of these are possibilities. It's just how do we formulate that and how do we write that in a way where it's not, I guess, counterbalance? Like how do we create the fairness in that language?
And I don't know, but to me, it seems like the purpose of that in independent is that you make sure that if there is information that they are seeking and they are able to get it, right? Because the information, if whether or not the board director in question is keeping that private and it doesn't share it, that's up to the board director, and they can make their decision whether or not they want to take that risk of sharing it. And even if they do, assuming it isn't HIPAA or FERPA related, even if it's something that may not be palatable to the district, it may not be against the law, right? If it's not against the law, then they can share it if they believe that it's in the best interest of their school district, because that's what all of us are charged with, is the best interest of the school district, not of ourselves, not of any particular interests. And so that's where I guess, like, because I understand where you're coming from in that, you know, you're saying that we're assuming that there are 3 board directors that are going to do something, right? But that's not the assumption. The assumption, we should be assuming on the side of who has less power, not assuming on the side of who does, because those 3 board directors can do whatever they like at any time in this fictional situation, right? That there is no point, like, we don't need to take their authority into consideration because it's already there and spelled out plainly in all of our documentation. So the idea that we need to placate to them, I don't know. Like, why would we?
I don't think it's placating. I think it's how a board votes. I mean, there's a lot of things that we do that are voted upon, and people vote their conscience, and where the vote lands is where the vote lands. And so I think just in this situation too, it's not preventing the information from coming and going as it should. It's just making sure that if there's something that a staff member, to your point, Andy, that it's not saying that the staff or the board won't do it. It's just they can choose not to. And so then the next choice is then just bring it to the board, and then the board can do it as a unit of
So
what the
does
board
that-
is. So you had started with it, you know, if you're good with the language, and I am good with this language. I feel like it does balance out kind of where it allows people to speak when they need to. It blocks when they feel like they shouldn't, and gives the opportunity for additional action to happen from the board as a whole.
So does that mean we wouldn't be able to walk into a school if the personnel at the school denied us access? Is that also the case? Because as far as I understand it, you know, board members are allowed to go into any school to go and visit for whatever reason they may have, outside of, you know, them committing a crime, of course.
Don't we already have a process in place? Like, I swear we had a policy that we previously discussed or where it's scheduled with the office of the superintendent. It's
That's
not
the
just
board
you get to-
protocol.
Yes.
That's the board
Not
protocol
just that
one.
you get to show
But
up.
Not a
is-
policy, though.
Not a
No.
policy, my apologies, but the protocol.
Yep.
But as far as that goes, like, from what I've been told, and maybe I'm incorrect in understanding the law here, but we are allowed to go into any school that we like. I mean, you're not allowed to go into any part of the school that you like. Yeah, obviously, if you're going to the bathrooms, that would be a problem. But visiting schools is part of the job of being a board director. And, you know, what about here? Could you be denied entry into the building here?
I'm not sure this
If the staff decided
policy-
to not do that?
Is addressing that at all.
This policy doesn't address that, but the other thing I think is important, there is a policy that the principal gets to decide, the building administrator I can't remember the exact language, has the ability at their discretion to not allow entrance to their building for safety reasons, et cetera, but there is a policy already written for that, for principals of their building to say, you can't come today. And they're allowed to do that for a board member, an administrator, they can do it for Dr. Kim can't come. That policy is already written. We
Could they do
reviewed
that
that
with
already.
security? Could they do that with the superintendent? Like, these things are a little
I think we're
far-fetched,
getting a
but-
little off topic here because
Yeah.
I don't think that those have to do with this
Yeah.
one here. And while interesting in their own, let's make sure that we do that.
Right.
On
Should-
this one, I feel good with the language.
I'm okay with it because it says, it gives an out to the person. They're not bound in any action taken or statement made. It gives them an out.
Director Song, are you good with the language?
I do have a question. Can we postpone this and just look at it at our next policy work session? Is that a problem for the board?
This is our third reading, so bring it, I think we've looked at it 3 different times. We can always vote it up and down, but we have the language here and it's been here, and this is our third reading. And so I would encourage
there-
us,
I mean, we've had 9 readings before though. so-
I absolutely agree with that, but there's no proposed language change. And what I'm hearing the other board members say is that they're good with the language.
Okay, I mean, if that's. what
Is there
the board-
something specific you want, are you looking for language to change?
I would like there to be language that's changed so that it is the assumption that the individual board directors may request information of any member of staff.
And remember, again, this has nothing in here. It doesn't say anything about what the board member can ask or not ask. The only thing it's saying is that the board or staff will not be bound. So what it's giving is the optionality of the person from who's hearing the ask. So it doesn't say that the board member can't ask.
Well, I mean, but if you look at that first line, it says the authority of individual board members is limited to participating in actions taken by the board as a whole when legally in session. So that's saying that your only authority is to be sitting up at the dais. Like even right now, this wouldn't be considered part of that authority because it's talking about when we are well, I guess right now we are legally in session.
We are
We're in
legally in
session.
session.
But as far as any other time, if you're not legally in session, then, so that's the only time that,
Well, because the decision of the board should never happen unless we are legally in session.
Right.
well, yes, of course, but that's saying the authority of the board members, there is no authority other than, I guess, voting. That's how it reads to me.
I think what this is talking about here, and we're getting into semantics, this is the difference between me directing this is an example, I'm not directing Dr. Behringer to do this, I'm just giving an example. If I directed Dr. Behringer to go speak with Cirque du Soleil and that they are going to all come and perform, that the Kent School District is going to hire them to come perform at every building, I've directed him to do that, that is the action. I don't have the power to do that. But I could suggest, hey, I saw this show, I think it would be great for the school, you should check it out. I can suggest it, I can ask it, but I'm not directing it.
And I think the other thing is, we're looking at it from the board's lens. I'm going to take a moment. What if I'm the principal, which just occurred for me, and the principal came up and said, I need you to get me buses. And they're telling me to do it. They're telling me we need more buses. Are they directing me to go get more buses? Because it could be interpreted that way if we look at the language of it.
I think this is, again, is about the duties of the board members.
Right.
But if you did in that motion say, yes, we're going to get you more buses, you can't.
I can't.
Because
Don't
it
have
takes
that
an action of
I
the
don't have
board
the-
to be able to do that.
Right.
So I feel like we've looked at this 3 different times. I'm seeing the rest of the board saying that we're good with this. I feel like that this can go for action in front of the board.
We can take that. Yep, thank you.
So
It is 5:59.
Oh, yes, Ms. Pam?
we didn't get to the last policy and we'll
We
have to
can
find a
start with
time.
it next time.
Yep, we can sure do that.
Great.
Okay, can I just ask, are we moving policy 5012 forward or not?
Yes. For
Okay.
vote on the 25th.
Thank you.
Yes. With the
Yep.
addition of the word, yes.
Just making sure.
Yes, I think all of them move forward. Nice job. Nice job, team. Okay, it is 6 PM, and this work session is adjourned for an executive session for 30 minutes. The purpose of this executive session is to discuss potential litigation and the legal or financial risks of a course of action. We will be back here at 6:30 to start our regular It is now 6:33, and our executive session adjourned at 6:28. The board members in attendance for the executive session were all of those you see here on the dais, and we were all in person. We now begin our regular meeting. And to begin our regular meeting, we'll start with a roll call for attendance. Each board member will indicate their attendance by saying present. Director Cook.
Present.
Director Williams.
Present.
Director Song.
Present.
Vice President Gregory.
Present.
And I am present. Director Song, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Welcome, everybody. This is a meeting of the Kent School District Board, which is held in public to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act. We welcome the public's participation in the board meeting and thank those of you who have come to the meeting and those who are viewing via our live stream. We did have a little bit of an issue with our live stream earlier, so I just wanted to get a thumbs up that we are going fine, and we are fantastic. The purpose of the board meeting is for the board to conduct its business in public. During the meeting, the board will listen to but not respond to comments from visitors. Whether made verbally in person, verbally on video, or written, comments are limited to a total of one per person per regular board meeting. One additional comment per person may be submitted for a public hearing topic if there is a public hearing on the agenda. All forms of public comment are subject to Chapter 4256 RCW Public Records Act. The public may comment at regular board meetings in a manner authorized by state law. All comments must adhere to Policy 1420 and Procedure 1420P. If you wish to make a comment to the board, comment forms are available for completion prior to the meeting and must be turned in no later than the beginning of the legislative report. No forms will be accepted once this report has begun. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. And our blue box for submitting comment requests is right in front of Ms. Hawley. Thank you. Public comments will be heard after the agenda review. Students will be the first to speak on any topic during the student voice portion of the agenda, which takes place immediately following this opening. General public comments from non-students will be heard during preliminary communication from the audience. Any remaining comments, whether from students or non-students, will be heard at specific agenda items and during the final communication from the audience. Student comments will be heard first on any topic. Please state your first and last name prior to the beginning of your testimony. Abuse of public comments personally directed towards the board, staff, or students will not be tolerated. The use of specific names or personal identifiable information of board, staff, or students is not allowed. Board members or KSD staff members may interrupt or terminate an individual statement when not adhering to Procedure 1420P. All comments, whether verbal or written, must adhere to the standards of civility as defined in the Policy 1400 Meeting Conduct, Order of Business, and Quorum. If you're seated in an overflow room, there is a brief delay in the live stream audio. We will allow extra time for you to make your way to the boardroom after your name is called. We also have plenty of seating in here tonight, so come and join us. Individuals with items for the board or superintendent must provide them directly to safety services staff. Thank you for being here tonight. Approaching the dais during the board meeting is not allowed. Any items turned in will be provided to the board and superintendent following the meeting. We now move to item 1.06, our land acknowledgement. And Director Gregory, could you please read our land acknowledgement?
You want me?
Yes, please. Would you please?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will. The Kent School District Board of Directors acknowledges we reside on the traditional lands of the Muckleshoot Indian tribe who have lived in this region since time immemorial. We honor their continued stewardship to this land, its waters, and its communities. We commit to ongoing learning, meaningful partnerships with Native communities, and uplifting the sovereignty of the Muckleshoot people.
Thank you very much. We now move to our agenda review, item 1.07. Superintendent Vella, are there any changes to the agenda?
President Margell, there are no changes to the agenda.
Is there a motion from the board?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
There's a motion to approve the agenda. We are now open for discussion. Seeing as there is none, there is a motion on the floor to approve the agenda as written. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
The motion has passed 5-0. We now move to our student voice section. Could we find out how many comments?
Yes, President Margell, there are no student comments in person. online or video.
Thank you very much. Our next section is public comments from the audience. We have no online video general comments, no online video specific comments tonight or written comments. We do have, are these all general? We have 7 general comments, and we will get through as many as we can during our preliminary, which is the first half an hour. Our first speaker, if we could have Sosan Nabizadeh. Okay, thank you.
Hello, board member. My name is Zewdin Baraki, and I'm going to interpret for Sosan Abizadeh.
Thank you.
سلام به همه عزیزان. تشکر از این که امروز در اینجا حضور دارین.
Hi everyone, thanks for being here today.
نام من سوسن است و من یکی از رهبران ون امریکا هستم.
My name is Sosan, and I am a leader with One America.
من یک زن مسلمان هستم و از افغانستان هستم، در شهر کند زندگی میکنم.
I'm a Muslim woman originally from Afghanistan, and I live in Kent.
طفلای من در مکتب کند درس میخوانند.
My kids attending in Kent School District.
مانند تمام والدین من سخت تلاش میکنم تا از آموزش و آینده فرزندانم حمایت کنم.
Like all parents, we work hard to support our kids' education and future.
اما یک مشکل بسیار مهم وجود داره.
But there is a critical issue
که بر سلامتی کودک ما تاثیر میگذارانه.
But there is a critical issue affecting our children's well-being.
نباید غذای حلال نبودن غذای حلال در مکاتب
Is the lack of halal food in school.
هر صبح وقت در از خواب بیدار میشم تا برای فرزندانم غذای آماده کنم، چون اونا نمیتواند غذای حلال در مکتب نیست.
Every morning I wake up early to prepare food for my children because they cannot eat food that it is not halal.
اما این بسیار سخت است برای من، چون من در حال حاضر در کالج هستم و مسئولیت بسیار زیاد همزمان دارم. نمیتوانم تمام کارها را همزمان انجام بدهم.
This is very difficult for me because I'm also studying in college and managing many responsibility at the same time.
بعضی روزا واقعا که نمیتوانم غذا آماده کنم.
I cannot always do everything.
در آن روزا فرزندانم بر مکتب می رود، اگر نه بر خانه می آید.
On days when I simply cannot prepare anything, my kids go to school and they came back hungry.
وقتی وارد خانه می شود می گوید مادر ما گرسنه هستیم، آیا غذای آماده است؟
When they step into the house, they say, Mom, I'm hungry. What is for dinner or lunch?
این وضعیت واقعاً که ناراحت کننده است. از طرف دیگر ما از نظر مالی هم بسیار مشکلات را روبرو هستیم، چون خریداری مواد غذایی خاص هر هفته فشار زیاد بر خانواده ها می آورد.
It's heartbreaking. We also struggling financially as grocery shopping every week for special food adds to the burden.
و این تنها مشکل فامیل ما نیست، این مشکل همه مسلمان ها است.
This isn't just my family. Many Muslim family facing these issues.
اگر کودکان گرسنه باشد نمیتواند در درس‌های خود موفق باشد.
Children can't thrive in school if they are hungry.
من احترامانه از حضورتان مدیران میخواهم که این را در در این انجام جلسه های آینده قرار دهید.
And I respectfully ask the board member to add this topic in the future agenda and include halal food option on their menus. So Muslim can eat healthy meal at school.
گرانه های غذاهای حلال در منوهای مکتب اضافه کنید.
Include the halal option on their menu so Muslim student can eat healthy meal at school.
تا شاگردان مسلمان بتواند غذاهای سالم در مکتبها نوشجان بکنند. با این کار ما شاگردان سالم در جامعه و قوی خواهم داشت.
By doing this, we will have healthier student and a stronger community.
از حمایت شما سپاسگزارم.
Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Medina Masani.
Hello, everyone. My name is Medina Hassani. I am a leader with One America. I'm also a mother of 3 children, and I'm working at a school. One of the biggest problems I saw is the lack of halal food. I saw these issues every day at school, and I am hearing from many parents complaining about it. Many Muslim students cannot eat the school lunch. Some children stay hungry during the day, and some of them can eat just only chips or snacks. As a mother, this hurts for my heart. As a school worker, it is painful for me to see this. This is not just about halal food. This is about respect and fairness. When children are hungry, they cannot focus for learning well. When my own children come home from school, they're hungry. I feel this very deeply. Muslim parents often tell me, we just want our children to have food they can eat, like other students. That is why I am here today. I respectfully ask the board members to add this topic in the future agenda. And I believe that if we work together, we can make our schools more welcoming and fair for all children. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Riza Bazad.
Thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for having us today here. Good evening, everyone. My name is Riza Muhammad Behzad, and a leader with One America. Sorry. I am a father of 3 children who attend school. I want to share a serious concern about Muslim students, as my other teammates has mentioned. The students who do not have access to halal food during school hours. This is something I see and worry about every day at schools. When halal options are unavailable, many students go 6 to 7 hours without eating at school. As a teacher, I have seen children sit through lunch with nothing on their plate while their classmates eat. And this has real consequences. From a health perspective, children need regular nutrition to maintain energy and stable blood sugar. When they do not eat, they experience fatigue, headache, dizziness, and weakness. Over time, this can lead to poor growth, nutrient deficiency, and more frequent illness. From a learning perspective, nutrition is directly connected to brain function. Hungry children struggle to concentrate, process information, and remember what they learn. Lower academic performance is not a behavior issue, it's often a nutrition issue. There is also an important emotional impact. Children who cannot eat because of their religious needs often feel excluded or embarrassed. As a parent, it's painful to know that a child may feel different and shamed simply because they are following their faith. We are not asking for special treatment. We are asking for equal access so all students can learn and succeed. Providing halal food is a reasonable, inclusive, and equitable accommodation that supports student health and success. We respectfully ask the Kent School District to place the topic of halal food options on a future agenda so the district can review, discuss, and decide whether this can be implemented in a way that works for our schools, students. Thank you for your time and for your commitment to the well-being of all students.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Mursal Malikzai.
Good evening, members of the school board. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Mursal, and I am a leader with One America. I'm here as an older sibling and as a concert family member. My two younger sisters are middle school students in this district. We are a Muslim family, and we follow halal dietary requirements. During the first years of their elementary school, my sisters brought lunch from home every day. As they grow older, this becomes harder to maintain. Now, like many students their age, they no longer want to bring food from home. They want to be able to eat at school with their classmates. However, the meals currently offered at school are not halal and do not meet their dietary or health needs. Because of this, my sisters often do not eat a proper lunch during their school day. They usually have only small snacks and wait until the day come home to eat a full meal. By that time, they are often very tired, hungry, and upset because they miss their lunch at the proper time. This affects their mood, energy, and ability to focus during school hours. Lunch is not just a break. It's an important part of students' well-being and learning. This is not just a religious issue, but an equity issue. No students should have to choose between their faith and eating lunch. In schools with a large Muslim students population, offering a halal and healthy food options would help ensure that all students feel included, respected, and supported. I respectfully ask the board to consider offering halal and healthy meal option in school where many students are Muslim. This small change would make a big difference. It would help students feel included, respected, and supported, and ensure they have the nutrition they need to succeed academically and emotionally. Thank you for listening, and I respectfully ask the board member to add this topic in their future agenda and ensure that all students, including Muslim students, are able to eat, learn, and thrive at school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Layla Jones.
Good evening, President Margell, members of the board, Superintendent Vella. I'm here tonight as the Vice President of the Kent Education Association to speak about budget and staffing concerns. Just last week, we were notified in writing that KSD is not going to pursue a reduction in force for our certificated educators. We don't have the financial triggers in store to enact a RIF, which is great news. That's really good news, welcoming news for our students in our community. But what is not good news is that the district is maintaining that they can explore other options, which may include the non-renewal of some provisional positions. So based on 9 years' worth of district data, we've seen an attrition rate of at least 150 educators each school year. Other years, starting in 2016, we've had 218, 309, 213, 150, 223, 261, 250, 229, and last year we had 177, either through retiring, resigning, moving out of education in general. And so if I'm using these districts' own attrition numbers, I don't see a need for potential non-renew of our provisional employees, which is good news. We don't have to go down this path either, right? 150 people is a lot, especially when we're staffed at capacity as is. But if we don't want to just look at attrition, we can look at recruitment and retention, right? So going back to money, budget concerns, just doing some quick kindergarten teacher math. To onboard each new KSD teacher costs anywhere from $1,500 to $2,300 just to pay those teachers in their time alone to be trained in all things KSD. So that's whether it's your Cell5D training, your curriculum day, if you're a brand new teacher, your 15 hours of mentor program, those sorts of things. And that's also using the lowest per diem rate, which is allowed in our salary schedule. So that doesn't account for the district staff that are here to provide all of those supports and the work around the onboarding, and it's not the resources either. That is just paying those teachers for their time. So if I'm using those costs, and again, continuing to do kindergarten teacher math, the district has already invested $225,000 to $345,000 in onboarding these 150 provisional staff. If we're looking at all 408 provisional staff that are in the district currently, which is 1 in 5 of your certificated educators are provisional, that's anywhere from $640,000 to almost $1 million, $940,000 that we've already invested in those teachers this year alone to onboard them. Also, if that's not enough money, we're saving money, right? We're considering goal 4, recruiting and training a diverse workforce. Looking at our 400 provisional staff, many of those people are BIPOC educators, which are what we're aiming to retain here, right? And many of those provisional teachers are also our special ed educators, which if those teachers are up for grabs, that's going to be really hard on the district. So in closing, I just ask that the board consider other options before non-renewing our provisional employees. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Joseph Sima-Omo. I know I pronounced it wrong. I even tried and I failed. I'm sorry. Say it again for me, please.
Samomo.
Samomo, thank you.
When you come into my classroom, it's spelled phonetically for you. So,
Perfect, thank you.
President Margell, board, Superintendent Fella, my name is Joseph Samomo. I'm here as an educator in the Kent School District to speak to you about our teacher mentor program. I know that we're talking about budget. Of all the programs that you could possibly cut, that is the one I think you should never touch. As a new educator, I would be nowhere without that mentor program. They have come to me to teach me how to be a better educator. They listen to things I'm trying to do, give me ideas, and I'm not the only one they do that. I teach at Canyon Ridge. Many of my colleagues are in that first 2 years. We are a young school. We have mentors in there almost every week, and they're helping us, working through problems, helping us figure out how we can teach a lesson, giving us ideas out of their experience because they are quite possibly the best employees this district has. Someone please tell Shelley I said that so I can get an extra coffee from her tomorrow. But they also are there when you need a hand. I had a bad day today. I just woke up and got to school and my students did not make my day easier. My mentor showed up today with a coffee. I didn't expect that. And she says, hey, this is for you. Hope you're having a great day. made my day 1,000% better. They somehow know when you're not having a good day. They somehow know when your students are pushing your buttons, but they make your days better. With the trainings that we do that help us think about how we get with the students, how we make sure the students are learning, how we plan our lessons, everything. They are there to help us every step of the way. I wish that I could have a mentor for the entirety of my career, but I know eventually they want to retire long before I do. But this is a program that is meaningful to this district because it helps maintain our educators that are here. They will want to stay here if they know someone has their back. We know our peers, our colleagues have our back, but these are people who come from the district office and always say, "You're doing a great job. How can I help you?" I think that we should maintain that and we should keep them where they are. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Simomo. Tim Martin.
Well, hello there again. I'm Tim Martin, and I am a member of this community. I am a graduate of Kent. I am the president of the Kent Teachers Association. First off, I want to tell you thank you. Thank you for listening to me. I was here at the last board meeting where I had asked and encouraged you to speak to this district about the fact that they were stating they were not in any financial troubles, yet one hand and then the next breath they were saying to members that there possibly could be a RIF. And you, I'm assuming, had some input in the fact that the day following that meeting, a note went out to all of our members saying, we're in healthy shape, there will not be a RIF. And that caused our members, and I was stopped at the store, people I don't know, we have 2,000 members, I don't know them all, but many of them know me, and telling me thank you, and to relay the message, thank you for your help in giving them a sense of relief. Unfortunately, though, I'm here again with a similar request. KEA was made aware on Monday that this district is planning now on sending out 408 potential non-renewal letters to every single one of our provisional baby teachers, people who are here within the first 3 years of their career or new to the district. They want us to do this on February 27th, and their reasoning, due to financial reasons. It's not due to performance in any way, shape, or form. 408 is mind-boggling to me. It's going to cause panic, and it's going to cause unnecessary stress. KSD is saying that they need to get 150 people to resign, and then they can handle all of this through attrition. KSD has had at least 150 people leave every single year, and in some cases, over 300 leave, and we're just talking certificated people. There is no reason to cause undue stress and chaos for our staff, our students, and our families because everybody's going to hear it. I know that I worked really hard with the district alongside them to get our last levy passed. It wasn't easy. We had to try it multiple times. And every time we check one of those things off, it's always stated promises made, promises kept. But we can't boast that anymore. As a student, a graduate of Kent, go Royals, I came back and I did my student teaching here with my very own second grade teacher, and I have stayed here for 33 years. I am invested in this district, I'm invested in this community, but I'm not sure that the rest of our community will continue to support our district, providing them with more money through levies and bonds when they continually have to deal with the unnecessary chaos and havocs from broken promises that are being made. I am again here begging you once again to please do not let this happen. I'm asking that you look at the nutrition numbers for yourself.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Hillary Anderson.
President Margell, members of the board, Superintendent Vela, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you. I am a mentor program specialist in the Kent School District. I have served in this capacity for 11 years. Prior to that, I worked at Kent Ridge High School as an ELA teacher. I love Kent, and I love supporting novice educators. Our novice educators come to us specifically because they want to work in a diverse community. They love that they receive the support from mentor program specialists who are well-versed in self-ID, equitable practices, the ways that we show care, and we ask them to strive for their students. Our teachers are provisional employees, all of them. There are 107 first-year teachers this year. 31 of those 107 first-year teachers are special ed teachers. We risk losing a very important cadre of educators in this community if we signal to them that their employment in Kent is not good enough. They will find other jobs. They will be snatched up. This state is bleeding special educators. We need them. Our students, our most vulnerable students, our most disenfranchised students need the stability of educators who stay in their classrooms for many years. In fact, of the novice educators, that's educators in their first 3 years in Kent, 23% are special educators. Another group of educators I want to speak to is our educators of color. Among them, in the first 3 years, 28% identify as educators of color. They come to Kent to serve the community and students who reflect the communities they come from. I see the benefit in classrooms that students have when they experience having an educator of color as a leader, as an authority, as an expert, and that benefits all children in Kent. White children, BIPOC children, all children. In 1954, this country integrated one way. Black students went to white schools. The unintended or intended consequence was that Black educators were wiped out of the system. Black teachers were not integrated into white schools. Black administrators were not integrated into white schools. This country has been working, the Kent School District has been working to undo the damage that was done 72 years ago to our educators of color. We can't go back. We have to respect, goal 4, recruit and retain a diverse workforce. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. At this time, we don't have any additional comments, so we will move on to section 4.0, recognition. Our first proclamation is read to us by Director Cook for National Black History Month.
Whereas, when he founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, now the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, on September 9, 1915, Dr. Carter G. Woodson labored under the belief that historical truth would crush falsehood and usher in a new era of equality, opportunity, and racial democracy. And it has been its charge for over a century. And whereas, in 1926, Dr. Woodson initiated the celebration of Negro History Week to bring attention to his mission to promote the study of Black history and help school systems coordinate their focus on the topic. And whereas, in 1976, the celebration of Black History Month was decreed a national observance and expanded to include the entire month of February. And whereas, today, Black History Month is supported and celebrated throughout the country by people of all ethnic and social backgrounds. And whereas, for more than a century, African American life, history, and culture have become major forces in the United States and the world. And whereas, confident that their struggles mattered in human history, Black scholars, artists, athletes, and leaders self-consciously used their talents to change how the world viewed African Americans. And whereas, in celebrating the entire history of African Americans and the arts, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History puts into the national spotlight the richness of the past and present, with an eye towards what the rest of the 21st century will bring. ASALH dedicates its 100th annual Black History theme to a century of Black history commemorations. And whereas the Kent School District's commitment to equity and excellence for each and every student is grounded in the rich legacy, courage, and remarkable contributions of those who sacrificed to keep these dreams alive for generations to come and build a nation that is more just and more equal for all people. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Kent School District proclaims the month of February 2026 National Black History Month in Kent School District and urges all citizens to join in this observance. Signed this 11th day of February 2026.
Thank you, Director Cook. Our next proclamation, Career and Technical Education Month, is being read to us by Director Gregory.
Whereas one of the Kent School District's goals is to prepare all students to be college and career ready by raising the academic and social learning bar and closing the gaps to student achievement and college completion. And whereas Career and Technical Education, CTE, offers students the opportunity to gain the academic, technical, and employability skills necessary for true career readiness. And whereas students in CTE programs participate in authentic, meaningful experiences that improve the quality of their education and increase their engagement and achievement. And whereas the Kent School District understands the significance of CTE and offers CTE at Kent Meridian, Kent Lake, Kent Ridge, Kentwood, Kent Laboratory Academy, as well as at the middle school level. Now, therefore, let it be resolved, the Kent School District Board of Directors proclaims February 2026 as National Career and Technical Education Month and urges all citizens to recognize the importance of CTE to prepare all students for success in career, college, and life. Signed this 11th day of February 2026 by the Board of Directors and the Superintendent.
Thank you, Vice President Gregory. If someone does have an electronic device that is ringing, if you could possibly mute it. The next section that we have is our superintendent report. Superintendent Vella.
Thank you, President Margell. Tonight, as per usual, I have some thank yous and some celebrations, and then, of course, some reminders, dates, as I normally do. First, I'd like to begin with congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks, all fans, near and far, they're not only here, and all the supportive community, congratulations. I'd like to now move forward to acknowledge the Kent School District that was honored in at the Washington State Senate floor during the adoption of SR 8664. The resolution recognizes the powerful impact of youth sports across Washington State. The acknowledgement is for unified members of Kentwood High School, track and field. They recently were invited onto that floor in Olympia to receive that recognition. Pretty cool for our school district and our community. The team was formally recognized, as I mentioned, as, quote, Team Washington for the 2026 USA Games. We are proud of these students, athletes, their coaches, and their supporters. And believe me, it takes a community to be able to support a program like we have. So thank you and congratulations. I'm also thankful for the strong and diverse community in our Kent School District. Our commitment to student safety and well-being and learning remains strong. Every student, every voice, and every day. It includes all students regardless of immigration or citizenship status. We enroll our students without discrimination and protect family privacy. Staff do not request nor share immigration information. If immigration agents arrive on a school campus, staff will not provide information or student access. Our schools remain safe, inclusive, and welcoming for every student and family. Resources are available on the immigration information on our family support webpage, on our Kent School District website. Thank you also to our counselors. Last week was National School Counseling Week. Our counselors' dedication, compassion, and daily commitment to supporting students make a profound difference in our schools. We're grateful for how they guide, encourage, and advocate for every student every day. We appreciate our counselors not only during the week, but every day of the school year, and summer, I might add, as they also support our students and families in KSD. Thank you also to our career and technical education staff. As you heard today, National CTE Month, their expertise, creativity, and commitment open doors for students every single day. Through CTE classes, students may discover their passions, build real-world skills, and prepare for future careers. We appreciate the meaningful impact our CTE teachers and staff make this month and throughout the school year. Last week, I attended the Pack the Gym event at two schools, Canyon Ridge and Kentwood High School. Canyon Ridge was after the early release, and that was just outstanding. The students and staff were amazing, and also attended at Kentwood High School. Thank you to Director Williams for attending. It was fantastic. Teams showed incredible teamwork, determination, and heart. Every bucket, every assist and hustle was met with cheers and smiles. The sportsmanship on display was outstanding and embodied exactly what unified sports are all about: inclusion, connection, and community. Thank you to all the student athletes, the coaches, the families, and the food trucks. Fantastic as they were at Kent Ridge. A special thank you again to Director Williams for attending Pack the Gym. They also were able to acknowledge the banner that was also celebrated that night. So, and also to any of the board members that were there I didn't see. Thank you, Director Cook. Thank you for being there. But having that banner, which is a national banner that's recognized, one of the only two high schools that have that banner. And finally, just some reminders and dates to share. Next week is President's Day, President's Week, day break. Students and school staff enjoy the time to relax and recharge. Central office will be open from February 17th through the 20th, as a reminder. Kent Community Foundation Scholarship application process for graduating seniors is now open. That deadline is March 15th, just as a reminder. More information can be found on the Kent Community Foundation website. Students are invited to participate in the 5th Annual Black Lives Matter Art Contest with this year's theme, Black Excellence. This theme celebrates the brilliance, resilience, and achievements of Black communities throughout history. Young artists are encouraged to express what Black Lives Matter means to them through original artwork. More information will be posted on our social media platforms as well. And finally, kindergarten registration for 26-27 is now open. If your child will be age 5 by August 31st, 2026, it's time to enroll for an exciting year of learning and growth. Again, find more information under For Families section enrollment on the Kent School District website. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Superintendent Vella. We now move to our legislative update. Do know that this is the time for all remaining comment cards to be turned into our blue box in the back. Seeing nobody running to do that, I call upon Director Song to give our legislative update.
I wish I had good news to share. I'm trying to channel my inner Dr. Clark. So the past month, while working on this short session, we have been reaching out to many of the legislators and lawmakers who are actively involved with the many pockets of potential and proposed legislation that's going to impact the schools in various different ways, from budget cuts to increasing budgets, curriculum design, transportation, MSOC, special ed. And so 2 weeks ago, the superintendent and I, as well as Director Gregory, went down to the Capitol, and we had multiple appointments set where we were able to meet with various legislators and gave them our piece, and we advocated on behalf of not just Kent School District, but the sustainability of funding for the entire state of Washington. My personal takeaway from it was that due to the ongoing budget constraints at the state level, many of the things that we have been advocating for are looking unstable right now. And so we're still following and tracking all the different bills that are proposed. They are being presented to the floor for review. And so within the next week, we'll have another update on identifying which bills have survived and moved on, which ones are being consolidated, and which ones may die on the House floor. Once we get those updates, I will share that at the next legislative update, or I guess the next legislative update during our next regularly scheduled board meeting. But aside from that, I don't think I have any other news to share, at least until we get a better, more concrete understanding as to what bills we're even going to be working with. So more to come.
We would hope for something rosier, but thank you for giving it as it is. So
Yes,
thank you very
authentic,
much.
transparent.
Yes.
This is where we are.
I appreciate that. We now are moving into the discussion piece of our agenda for the evening. And we had a similar topic last meeting about topics that we'd want to present to the city of Covington for our joint meeting coming up. And so this time we wanted to make sure that any specific topics for the city of Kent, and make sure that we have those topics to be able to present to the city of Kent. And so I open up to the board any topics that you're specifically seeing. I did provide the list that everybody said for Covington. I think a lot of them carry over. But obviously, like Lake Point probably would not be as appropriate for Kent. But one topic that I would specifically like to see is our partnership that we have with Boeing and some of the CTE partnerships that we've had with City of Kent. Just kind of talking about what that looks like in the growth with our business partners, and what that looks like, since we do have such a corridor of businesses that reside within the Kent.
President Margell, if I may, for the board,
Yeah.
Dr. Berger and I were able to, we had our meeting last week with Mayor Ralph, and she's excited about sharing even more information about that, so some new information.
Fantastic.
And so, yeah, I just wanted to share with the board, they're excited to do that.
Well, we're excited too.
Yeah, and on that same topic, I guess that brought up one part of the legislative update is through conversations. We had additional dialogue with some representatives about potential partnerships, additional funding, and opportunities that Kent School District may be a part of regarding the Boeing partnership, especially with the city of Kent. So as these things start to develop, hopefully our superintendent can continue to give us those updates. But yes, I agree. And then the other thing I'd like to add is with the ongoing concerns and topics with ICE, immigration, safety, student walkouts, et cetera, I think it'd be very valuable for us as a district to be aligned and to essentially recalibrate what our approach and stance is going to look like in unity with the city of Kent. And so with a lot of messaging that's going out across social medias, and also just through word of mouth, I feel having some more consistent language and identity around this approach could be beneficial for us.
I would add, related to that, is just coordinating our emergency preparedness, thinking about the flooding situation that we had back in December. Just being able to make sure that we have the same protocols, that we are having that joint discussion together of when and if this happens again, how do we handle it? Not necessarily flood, but any kind of emergency situation.
And just to make sure that I heard that, and I will reiterate all of them to make sure I have them down correctly, not just specifically what happened in the flood, but more of what are we doing to prepare for different emergency potential in the future? What does that look like? What do we have built out today?
How can we work hand in hand,
Yep.
district and city?
Okay.
Did you have anything?
I'm good.
I had, sorry,
covered the.
I had one more, and I think kind of building off of what I think you and I are on the same wavelength this week. Building off of what you said is, I'm seeing as an educator, more and more students are wanting to go directly into workforce. And so looking at directive workforce opportunities with the state, with the city, partnerships that support those career pathways. So finding ways to build in apprenticeships, build in partnerships with our different local businesses and local skills trades that we have here so that our Kent students have a director workforce assistance.
Yeah, that was really in line with what I was looking at, some of the programs that we have specifically, but any of the businesses and building out that direct workforce. So yes, what our partnerships are existing, what other things that we can do to work hand in hand for direct workforce, are opportunities for financial benefits for the district to be able to build those. What does that look like? ICE, safety, student walkouts, unity with the city of Kent, emergency preparedness. How do we work together hand in hand for that? Does that feel good for everybody? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, the other thing I want to add on is we had this conversation with the city of Covington, I think 2 years ago, but having that bridge with the city of Kent as well as we're, closely approaching summer. I think we're pretty close to summer already. The partnership that we had with Covington about the summer interns and volunteer programs for our students, and if we can start getting some, information about those opportunities at the city level of what Kent has prepared, or if the city of Kent has anything prepared.
Yep, and I think that there's some that even beyond just the summer. I know that reading my student bulletin, they have things through the city of Kent year-round, or I'm sorry, the Kent Police Department year-round and what that looks like. So great, I'll add that on summer intern or internship programs or
yeah, because I think the last time they had one for like the parks and
yes.
rec, and so do we have some more of those? I just haven't seen or seen much advertisement. So
yeah, perfect, great, added on. Thank you very much. Keep the conversation going. If you have that 2 a.m. thought, please feel free to email that to both myself and Naomi. We now move on to the next section of our agenda, the discussion and approval. Is there a motion on the floor?
I motion to approve discussion and approval 8.01, gifts, donations, and memorials acceptance.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded for approval of item 8.01, gifts, donations, and/or memorials acceptance. We are now open for discussion.
Yeah, we just want to acknowledge and send our gratitude and thanks to all those who continuously provide various levels and degrees of supports to our students here in the Kent School District. The first one to acknowledge is the recipient of Scenic Hill Elementary School. The donation was for teachers to purchase supplies. Our donor to thank is adoptaclassroom.org with equipment and materials valued at $5,000. Our next recipient was Lake Young's Elementary. They had 3 separate donations for Taproot Theater Bowling Assembly, 3rd grade field trip to Pacific Science Center, 1st grade field trip. And so thank you to the Lake Young's PTSA, and for various cash amounts of $1,543, $1,663, and $768. Our next recipient was Northwood Middle School for dance, costume, and expenses. So thank you, Northwood Dance Booster, for your cash donation of $7,463.84. Next, we have Crestwood Elementary School with a donation receipt of field trip expenses by the Crestwood PTA at a cash amount of $3,000. And lastly, Kentwood High School for their wrestling team expensive by Bob Anderson for his cash donation amount of $1,000. So thank you to all of our donors, sponsors, to help keep our programs afloat.
Thank you. Seeing no further comments, a motion has been made and seconded for approval of item 8.01, gifts, donations, and/or memorials acceptance. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
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 The motion passes 5-0. We now move to our consent agenda items. Is there any agenda items anybody would like to pull? Is there a motion on the floor?
Move to approve consent agenda items 9.01 through 9.10.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded for approval of items 9.01 through 9.10. We are now open for discussion. Seeing that there is none, a motion's been made and seconded for approval of items 9.01 through 9.10. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All those against?
Nay.
The motion passes 4-1. The informational items are listed there for your perusing pleasure. And now we move on to final communication from the audience. I didn't see any additional added into the box before the legislative report.
That is correct.
So we move to our board director reports. Director Cook, how about you lead us off?
Sure. So recently, I was able to go and attend Kentwood's and Matson's walkouts from that were set up by our students entirely. And both of them went off without a hitch for the most part, but there was a bit of a concern with the amount of staffing. And I don't know if our board can possibly discuss this at a later date, but there was a difference between how Kentwood was handled by security and whatnot from the Kent School District and how Matson was handled. And I don't know what the discrepancy was or why it was done that way. But we made sure that the kids were safe. We did as best we could with the parents that showed up for the Matson protest. And as always, I support any student that wants to go out and do their civic duty in trying to protest whatever it is they want to protest or rally for whatever they want to rally for. And I will try to do my best to show up as much as I can for as many of those as I can, because I think it's vitally important that our students know that they can impact the world around them. And one of the essential ways of doing so is through civil protest. And hopefully they will see that as a way for them to get out there and show that they either support or don't support whatever cause is important to them. And so, and I say this on both sides of the aisle, and I absolutely mean that. Most people know that I'm a very liberal person in my personal life, but that does not come into play when I'm talking about what people should be able to do when they are doing things in a safe manner, out in public, trying to make their voices heard. Everyone's voice should be heard at all times. Outside of that, I had a wonderful time visiting a school with Dr. Kim. That was a lot of fun. That was a couple of weeks ago. It might have been before our last meeting, I'm not sure.
Yeah, right before the last meeting.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's been too long. I don't know. But outside of that, I'm just really enjoying trying to get to the bottom of some of the agenda stuff that we've been having with the budget and whatnot. So I'm still working on that, and hopefully I'll have some more information to share shortly.
Thank you, Director Cook. Director Williams.
Firstly, I want to welcome our KEA members tonight. I'm told they're from Kent Ridge, Kent Lab, the district office, Virtual Academy, and iGrad, a lot of our ALE programs, which I deeply appreciate as a fellow ALE teacher. I want to address a couple things tonight. Firstly, thinking about not tonight's work session, but the previous work session when we reviewed our budget. Towards the end of the conversation, there was discussion about raising our gen fund balance percentage, and we discussed in some detail the pros and cons of that. I reflected a lot on this, and I received many, many, many emails. And I have to say, I understand, I can see the pros. I can see why we would want to build up that savings so that we don't put ourselves in a deficit. However, because we are facing such a massive cut this year, $30.5 million, it just feels like such a big number. I want to make sure that we can get through and sustain the difficulties of this year. Secondly, I'd want to make sure, I would request that we, if we are going to consider increasing that percentage, we see a multi-year plan of how that would roll out. And I know we're nodding our head, but I think it needs to be directly stated. And finally, and this is a big one for me, and I think it was stated during the meeting, but I want to make it really, really clear that I would request, not direct, but request to see a commitment from both labor and district that any MOUs would be negotiated that would proactively to help avoid triggering those automatic RIFs. We don't want to put our greatest assets at risk because we raised that percentage. And so I'd like to make sure that we're bringing all interested parties to that table and that we're proactively addressing those issues. So, when we talk about budget, it has to be students first. And when we talk about students first, that includes our student-facing and student-supporting people. The second thing I want to talk about tonight is stipends and transparency. Superintendent Vela and Ms. Curry were super gracious to meet with me. I think I'm saying the right person. Did I meet with? Yes, cool. They were super gracious to meet with me because I was struggling to understand the recent article from the Kent Reporter and just making sure that I was clear when community members asked me about, well, what's the deal with these stipends? They did such a nice job and they were so gracious with their time. I don't know if anyone's familiar with cumulative. My school, we like to call it the Q because we have lots of questions. This is the quote-unquote new skyward. And cumulative comes with a lot of kinks. So it's a tricky system to work. And my understanding is that it's miscategorized some of the pay our admin office receives, since they operate on a separate calendar than our school staff calendar. And thus, it looks like they're earning these extra stipends when that is definitely not the case. So in a commitment to transparency, I wanted to share that I had this conversation. I feel good about where we left things. And I would encourage anyone to look at the data. Lastly, I just want to say congratulations to Kentwood. What an excellent event, Pack the Gym. It was an awesome energy. It was so cool to see the unveiling of the banner. And I believe they had a Special Olympics Olympiad there to do the speech. To unveil the banner, and it just was really awesome to see. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Director Williams. Director Song?
Yeah, I just wanted to recap again with the legislative updates, that these updates will continuously come at our regularly scheduled board meetings. Hopefully, down the road, I can provide some more concrete details about the direction that we're heading. Having that information, my hopes is that it creates some level of clarity around the decisions made by the district, especially when we're talking about impacts to funds. But on the note, I also wanted to take the opportunity to acknowledge our families and students that came here today to advocate for the variety and diversity of needs that are still growing and developing within the Kent School District. I myself, growing up in a very predominantly white school district, ran into my own barriers of racial and ethnic identities. And so hopefully as we move forward, I want to make sure that the voices are not lost here in this room, and that in the future, hopefully in the short future, we can have a board meeting where we talk about the inclusive efforts that we're taking to integrate things like halal foods and exploring some of the other options that might benefit our student body here as we start to continuously reflect on the growing populations and identities that we're seeing amongst our school district. The other thing, or I guess the last part with all of this is next week I will also be going to Minnesota again for the second time. In addition to this, I'm part of the National School Board Association, and so there is an incident that occurred with school board members in Minnesota with immigration, and so many board members from across our country will be in attendance so we can learn collectively and workshop what some potential responses, reactions, and actions could look like. And so my hope is I'm going to bring back some of the collective work from that group and share it with the rest of the board and get some input on how do we integrate some of these national practices to be more aligned with our other school districts across the country to ensure that our staff, students, and community feels and remains safe. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Director Song. Vice President Gregory.
I want to thank Dr. Behringer and Dr. Kim for inviting me along as we went out to schools. I know it's a lot of effort to get those scheduled and then to have someone tag along. It feels very uninclusive, but we had great visits. So I just want to have a call out to all the schools we went to, and I will not forget one because I wrote them down. So we went to Kent Lake, we went out to Sawyer Woods, and at Sawyer Woods we looked at the way that they're teaching and how they are incorporating learning thinking classrooms, and we had an opportunity to step into a few different classrooms. We also went to Grass Lake. We went to Jenkins Creek, where we had a very spirited conversation at Jenkins Creek, which then I got called out later on at a total different meeting on, but that was fine. And then we went out to see Kentwood, and we spent the morning at Kentwood yesterday, again, looking at the learning practices that we've been employing. So last year, just as a reminder, we did a lot of work and effort to have hand in hand and side by side with us on how we can look at, teaching in the moment, right? This mentorship and teaching in the moment and learning in the moment. And it's not to be feedback, it's meant to be wandering. How did you get this and how do you get this further? And we had a great experience at Kentwood. We didn't go to traditional classrooms. We went to music, which you have student voice with instruments, which is a different way of looking at it because you can have voice with that. And it was very cool to see it in the moment of learning vocabulary and at the same time learning how that shows up in music and how all the instruments work together. We went to photography and we had an amazing time to learn about what does this mean and how do you look at photography different and how each diversity person looks at the same picture and comes up with something totally different. It was really cool to see that. And then I went out to Auto Shop. And first, kudos, because it was the most quietest auto shop I have ever been to. I've never been to an auto shop. But I'm telling you that it's tongue in cheek, but in reality, they were focused. They were on task. They were doing their assignment, and they were doing it in a collaborative way. And it was quiet because that's what they needed, right? If they needed discussion, they were having discussion, but they needed the quiet, and they had the quiet. So the instructor, our teacher out there is amazing. I did find out that they could do my brakes, so I'll be looking at that. You can go online. Did you know this is available at Kentwood? You can get your car serviced on Thursdays and Fridays. There is a web, you can go on the web page, and then you have to bring all the supplies. You have to pay for the supplies. But they get the experience going back to our CTE and looking at those individuals that want to go into those careers. They get real hands-on experience at school. They're not going anyplace else. They're doing it during their classwork, and they also are working on your car. So I thought that was amazing. So I'm going to be looking that up later. And that concludes my report. Had an amazing time out at all the schools, and I can't wait to go to Meeker.
Are you really done?
I'm really done.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Director Williams. Director Gregory, sorry. Well, thank you, Director Williams, too, and Director Song and Director Cook, thank you. I had a busy week, being able to do some of the fun activities after school and on the weekends. Was able to attend the invitational held at Kent Ridge, hosted by the Chatelaines for our different dance teams around the state, participating from our district alone, Kent Ridge, Kent Lake, Kentwood, Meridian-Matson combined team, Northwood, and Cedar Heights. Fantastic showcase of the hard work that goes in with our students into their different routines and just really fun to see them all out there dancing in the middle at the end and having a great time with each other. So thank you very much for the opportunity to watch that. And I'm also going to put a plug in for the amazing foyer that we have in Kent Ridge now that our voters helped pay for. And that it just really makes it a community place. And I love that our schools are about our community and bringing our community together and the work that they do throughout the state in the different teams and having a place for them to come to. I got to go to Pack to the Gym, Kent Ridge, Kent Meridian games, super fun. The senior night for Kent Ridge and Kentwood boys basketball. Fantastic game, back and forth, but also part of that was a cheer camp that we saw some of our soon-to-be someday cheer girls and boys out there being led. And then I also shout out, my husband would be sad if I didn't, how great our bands were. They bring so much to our games, and what a fun thing that our students get to participate in. Director Song, I want to say thank you very much for your legislative updates, especially when we're in session. It's so great for us as a community to, the ways that we can participate. I think we're all thinking about civic responsibility and participation right now. And I encourage our community to go onto the website and see the bills, see where they're at. Know that you can go in today. There's a bill that I'm particularly watching, and I wanted to make sure that my comments were heard, and I sent them to our legislatures. You can, or our legislative representatives, you can just click a button right down there, send it. Are you for and against, and why? And be part of this. This is the really cool part about being an American, that you can do this. I want to say thank you to Ms. Hawley and particularly Mr. Dennison today for being there. We talked a lot about transportation and our the work that we do as a board for our policy. Thank you for the board for participating in that and coming prepared to speak about that. And then I will always end with the reason that we do all of this is our students. You are our focus, and you're the reason why we're here every day. And we particularly thank you for your voice and what you bring to our community. So with that, it is 7:44, and we are adjourned. We are signing stuff, so please don't leave. And a reminder to read your